They didn't ask. They told me that I'd be moving in with my sister, that I'd help with her newborn for a little while, that I'd be doing what's right for the family. But what they didn't know is, I had something of my own. And when I left, I took more than they ever imagined. I was only supposed to stay a couple of weeks. That's what they told me when I moved back in with my parents after losing my job. Just until you get back on your feet, my dad said, patting me on the shoulder like I was 12 instead of 26. I packed 2 suitcases, told myself it was temporary, and moved into the guest room in my childhood home in Albany, New York. That was 3 months ago. In those 3 months, my parents started walking on eggshells like I was some kind of disappointment they were trying not to look directly at. My mom would sigh loudly whenever she saw me on the couch. My dad would make little passive-aggressive comments like, "You know, it doesn't hurt to wake up before 9, even on Saturdays." Then Madeline came home. My older sister. Their golden girl. She had just given birth to her first child, little Ellie. And the moment she walked into the house, everything shifted. My mom lit up like a Christmas tree. My dad followed her around like a lost puppy. Suddenly, I was invisible. Again. But I didn't mind. Ellie was perfect. I held her, fed her, changed her without being asked. I even stayed up one night rocking her when Madeline wanted to get just a few hours of sleep. I thought I was helping. Being useful. Showing I wasn't just dead weight. Turns out, I was doing something else. Training. One morning, I came downstairs in my pajama pants and an old hoodie, still brushing my teeth, and found my mom and dad sitting at the kitchen table like they were waiting for me. Coffee brewed. Toast on a plate. Mom's hands folded neatly. Madeline wasn't even there. "You're up," Dad said, cheerful in that fake way I always hated. I raised an eyebrow. "Obviously. We've been talking," Mom started. "And we've come up with something that would really help everyone." I didn't sit. I didn't even stop brushing. Just stood there, toothbrush in hand, waiting. "Your sister's going back to work in a few weeks," Dad said. "She'll need someone to stay with Ellie full time." "Okay," I said slowly. "So you're hiring a nanny?" Mom smiled like she was trying hard not to look smug. "Not exactly. We were thinking, since you're already here, and you clearly love the baby, it makes sense for you to step in." I pulled the toothbrush out of my mouth. "You want me to be Madeline's nanny?" "Not nanny," Mom said quickly. "Family. Support. We'd move you into the guest room at her place. Rent-free, of course. And she'll pay you something," Dad added, already waving a hand like money wasn't the issue. "She'll take care of you." "Take care of me. Like a charity case." "I'm not a babysitter," I said. "You're unemployed," Mom corrected. The words hit like a slap. Not because they were wrong, but because of how quickly she said them. Like she'd been waiting. "It's not forever," Dad said, lowering his voice. "Just until she gets the baby into a routine. A few months. Maybe 6. 6 months. Living in my sister's house. Changing diapers. Cooking bottles. Being the unpaid background character in Madeline's golden life." I stepped back. This was never a question, was it? "You don't have a job, Aubrey," Mom snapped. "You don't have rent. You don't contribute. This is your way to help." "Help who? Madeline? Them?" I didn't say anything. Just turned and walked out of the kitchen, toothbrush still in hand. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, listening to the quiet hum of the house. My mind kept circling the same question over and over again. When did I become so disposable to them? Around 2 a.m., I got out of bed and went downstairs. I opened the hallway closet, the one my dad always kept locked, and looked through the file drawers. Old tax records. Property papers. Birth certificates. I don't even know what I was looking for. Maybe proof I wasn't crazy. Proof they were hiding something. That's when I found it. A thin manila folder labeled with my name. Aubrey Elise James. Inside, a legal document I didn't recognize. A scanned signature, my Aunt Sylvia's. And something that looked like a trust summary. I read it twice. Then a third time. Sylvia had left me money. Not a fortune, but enough. Enough to live on. Enough to restart. But the kicker? The trust activated the day I turned 27. In 3 months. And if I was deemed unstable or legally dependent on someone else before then, the money could be withheld or redirected. I stared at the clause. Any party assuming guardianship or fiduciary control may petition for early access if the beneficiary is deemed mentally unfit or financially negligent. Mentally unfit. Financially negligent. That's what this was. This wasn't about helping Madeline. This was about controlling me long enough to take what was mine. I put the folder back. Not where I found it, but in my bag. I went upstairs. Packed my clothes in the dark. Jeans, hoodies, sneakers, baby wipes. I paused at the crib where Ellie was sleeping and just watched her. Her little chest rising and falling. Her tiny hands curled near her face. I didn't plan it. Not at first. But then I saw the diaper bag. Already packed. And I realized, if I didn't leave now, I never would. By 4 a.m., I was gone. No goodbye. No note. No plan. Just me, a baby, a diaper bag, and a stolen file with my name on it. They wanted a nanny. What they got was a girl with nothing left to lose. And one hell of a surprise. It was almost sunrise when I pulled off the highway and parked in the back lot of an old roadside motel in Pennsylvania. The kind with faded red doors and buzzing lights that never shut off completely. It was cheap. Quiet. Out of the way. I didn't stop shaking until I turned the engine off. Ellie was still asleep in the back seat, bundled in her fuzzy yellow onesie, her soft little fists tucked up near her chin. She hadn't made a sound the whole ride. Like she knew this wasn't a night for crying. I carried her inside. The room smelled like old carpet and cigarette smoke. I didn't care. I laid her down on the bed, turned on the bathroom light, and sat on the edge of the tub with my heart still racing. My phone buzzed for the 6th time that hour. I didn't look. I knew who it was. Or at least who it wasn't. It wouldn't be Madeline. She never called me unless someone made her. It would be my mom. Probably furious. Probably saying something like, "You've officially lost it, Aubrey." But I wasn't crazy. I wasn't even angry anymore. I was focused. I opened the diaper bag just to make sure I hadn't forgotten anything. Bottles. Formula. Wipes. An extra pacifier. And then, in the side pocket, I found something that stopped me cold. A folder. Just a regular paper folder, half stuffed with documents. Tucked between a burp cloth and a container of baby lotion. I opened it slowly. The first thing inside was a birth certificate. Not a copy. A real one. Stamped and signed. Baby's name, Eleanor June Callahan. Mother, Aubrey Elise James. Father, left blank. I blinked. My brain couldn't even process what I was seeing. This was a joke, right? A mistake? But thou it was. My name. Not Madeline's. Mine. The air in the motel room felt too thin all of a sudden. I grabbed my phone, not to check the missed calls, but to message someone I hadn't talked to in a while. Haley. My old roommate from college. She worked for the county office in Albany now, somewhere in the records department. I texted. If someone forged a birth certificate using my name, how would I know if it was real? She replied 3 minutes later. That's oddly specific. Send me a pic. I took a photo of the certificate and sent it. She didn't answer right away. When she did, she just said, "Where did you get this?" I told her I couldn't explain right now. That I just needed to know, was it real? Another pause. Then, "It's legit. Registered. State sealed. It's in our system." I dropped the phone. I sat on the edge of the bed and stared at Ellie. She was awake now, blinking slowly, her tiny mouth making little sucking sounds. I picked her up without even thinking, held her against my chest. She was warm. Heavy in the way only newborns are. But she didn't cry. Just curled into me like she belonged there. I whispered, "Did your mom do this? Did my sister actually sign you over to me?" It wasn't just a signature. It wasn't just paperwork. It was legal. Somehow, somewhere along the line, I had been made her guardian. Her legal mother. And no one ever told me. I thought back to 6 months ago. Madeline was pregnant, tired, panicking about every decision. I'd gone with her to one of her appointments because her husband was traveling. She was emotional, scared. She said something about needing to name a backup guardian just in case. I remember her handing me a clipboard and saying, "Just sign this so I can finish the form." I thought it was medical release paperwork. I signed it while scrolling through my phone. She thanked me. I didn't think about it again. Now I realized what I'd signed might have been something else entirely. Something permanent. And maybe, deliberate. The motel room phone rang. My heart jumped out of my chest. I stared at it. No one had that number. Not unless. I picked up slowly. "Room 112, a voice asked. "Yes. There's a man out here asking for you. Says his family. Wants to make sure you're okay." My stomach dropped. I said, "Tell him I'm not here." I hung up before they could say anything else. I grabbed the baby. My bag. The car keys. I wrapped Ellie in her blanket and ran out the back door without looking back. I drove to a Walmart 2 towns over, parked under the lot lights, and sat there catching my breath. Then I called the one person I hadn't spoken to in over a year. Logan. We weren't close anymore. Not since I bailed on our cross-country trip. But he always said, "If you ever need to disappear, I'll help you vanish like smoke." When he answered, his voice was groggy. "Aubrey." I didn't explain everything. Just said, "I need a place to lay low. For a few days. Maybe more." He didn't ask why. He just said, "Come." That night, I slept on a pull-out couch in Logan's basement apartment. He brought down fresh sheets, a portable crib from his sister's garage, and a grocery bag of baby stuff he didn't ask questions about. When Ellie was finally asleep, he sat across from me, sipping a warm soda. "Do I want to know?" he asked. "Probably not." "You running from something?" I nodded. "Someone." He raised an eyebrow. "Is that baby yours?" I looked at her. Peaceful. Soft. Trusting. And I said, "Maybe more than I ever knew." I woke up to a soft noise, like someone tapping on glass. It was still early, maybe 7 a.m. The room was dim. Logan's basement apartment stayed cool even in July, and a faint orange light slid through the window well above the couch. Ellie was asleep in her portable crib beside me, one arm flopped across her chest. I sat up slowly. There it was again. Tap, tap, tap. Not loud. Not forceful. Just patient. I slipped off the couch and crept to the small window. Logan lived beneath a garage apartment, the kind with a narrow stairway and just enough yard to park 2 cars. His windows barely showed street level, but if someone got close enough, they could look right in. And someone had. A man stood at the edge of the window well, hands in the pockets of a brown jacket. Clean-shaven. Smiling. He waved at me like we were old friends. I backed away fast. When Logan came downstairs a minute later, he was barefoot and holding his phone. "Hey," he said carefully, "there's a guy out front asking for you. Says he's a friend of your family. Should I call the cops?" "Not yet," I said. Because I wanted to see his face. I wanted to hear what kind of lie he'd use. I climbed the stairs and opened the door just enough to see him clearly. He was older than I expected. Mid-50s maybe. Polished shoes. Gray at his temples. He had a voice like smooth concrete, solid, calm, a little too practiced. "Aubrey James," he asked. My hand tightened on the doorframe. "Who are you?" "I'm not here to make trouble," he said, palms out. "I just want to make sure you're okay. Your family's worried." "Which one sent you?" He gave a small laugh. "I think everyone's a little concerned." "You didn't answer the question." He tilted his head, just slightly. "I'm a friend of your father's. He asked me to come speak to you. Make sure you weren't making decisions you'd regret." Decisions. Like running off with a baby they'd hidden from me. I didn't respond. Just stared. "You've been through a lot," he continued. "Losing your job. Coming back home. The baby, well, it's a big adjustment. Your parents think maybe you're overwhelmed." There it was. The setup. If I agreed, even a little, they'd say I was unstable. That I'd cracked. That this was all some breakdown. I said nothing. He smiled again. "Would you mind if I came in for just a moment? I can explain a few things. Maybe clear up some confusion." "No," I said. He blinked. "I don't talk to strangers," I added. "And you're a stranger. I don't care if my dad says otherwise." I understand. But if you don't leave, I said, my next call is to the police. And I have someone here who will happily back up every word I say. That part was true. Logan had already walked outside and was standing silently behind me, arms crossed. The man gave a tight smile. Okay. I won't push. Just take care of yourself, Aubrey. He turned and walked back to a sleek silver car parked at the curb. No plates on the front. Tinted windows. When he drove off, Logan spoke first. You want to tell me who the hell that was? I don't know, I said honestly. But he knows my dad. And that's enough for me to keep running. Back inside, I sat on the couch and held Ellie close. She was so small. So still. It scared me sometimes, how quiet she was. Like she understood everything without needing to speak. I don't think they care about you, I whispered. I think they care about what you represent. And that terrified me more than anything. Later that day, I did something reckless. I called Madeline. She picked up on the second ring, her voice shaking with emotion, or maybe rage. Aubrey. I didn't answer at first. Where are you? Oh my God, are you okay? You can't just, what were you thinking? Did you send someone after me? I asked. She hesitated. What? No. Mom said Dad might look into options. But no one sent anyone. Someone found me, I said. He said he was your dad's friend. Silence. Madeline, I said quietly, what did you sign? Months ago. Before Ellie was born. What do you mean? Did you name me guardian? More silence. Just temporarily, she said finally. I was scared. You were the only one who really helped me during the pregnancy. You were calm. And I thought, if something happened to me, you'd take care of her. So why didn't you ever tell me it went through? I didn't think it did, she said quickly. The lawyer said it would be finalized after birth, but I never followed up. Liar, I said softly. Aubrey, come on. You've always been dramatic. I wanted to hang up. I should have. But I needed answers. Why now? I asked. Why did everyone suddenly decide I was the nanny? She didn't speak. You weren't planning to take care of her, were you? Madeline exhaled hard. I was going to try. But then Mom said, look, I have a job. A career. This wasn't part of the plan. And what about my plan, Madeline? You don't have a plan, she snapped. You lost your job. You were sleeping in the guest room, eating their food, scrolling on your phone all day. I was helping you. With your baby. Yeah? And now you're helping yourself to something that isn't yours. That made me go cold. I looked at Ellie, her tiny eyes staring up at me from her blanket. She's not a something, I said. Whatever, Madeline muttered. You have no idea what you're doing. You can't just run off with someone else's kid and expect it not to explode in your face. I smiled. Actually, I said, it might explode in yours. And I hung up. That night, Logan made pasta and didn't ask questions. We ate on the couch. Ellie sat between us in a bouncer seat, gurgling happily. This doesn't feel real, I said finally. It's not, he replied. It's better. You finally got away from them. Maybe. But I don't think they're done. Especially not my dad. He doesn't like when things slip out of his hands. Logan looked thoughtful. Then it's time you find out what he's holding on to. What do you mean? I mean, he said, you've been playing defense. Maybe it's time to play offense. The next morning, I drove 2 hours south to visit someone I never thought I'd see again, my aunt's old attorney. His name was Mr. Daly, and he smelled like peppermint and dust. He remembered me right away. You've grown, he said, smiling warmly. Sylvia always said you were the only one in the family who didn't try to impress people. I smiled politely. I need to ask you something about the trust she left me. He nodded. I expected this day might come. What do you want to know? I pulled out the copy of the trust and birth certificate. Why is this real? I asked. Why is my name listed as guardian? Why did no one tell me? Mr. Daly took a long time reading the papers. Then he set them down and folded his hands. Your aunt knew there was a chance your parents would try to manipulate you after she passed, he said. She saw it coming. She tried to get ahead of it. I stared. She told me if anything strange happened, any attempt to sideline you, corner you, or declare you incapable, I should release a second file. File. He reached into a drawer and pulled out a blue envelope. My name was written on it in Sylvia's handwriting. I opened it with shaking fingers. Inside was a note and a second trust clause. If legal action was taken against me by any member of my family, the trust could be triggered early and passed on to my legal dependent. Meaning Ellie. Even if I wasn't ready to claim the money, she was. She planned all this, I whispered. No, he corrected gently. She planned for them to be exactly who they are. And she hoped you'd finally see it. When I got back to Logan's, I stood in the doorway for a long time just watching Ellie. She was sleeping again. Peaceful. Unbothered. Safe. My phone buzzed with another unknown number. I didn't answer. Because I wasn't scared anymore. I was ready. I thought the letter from Aunt Sylvia was the end of it. It felt like closure, proof that someone in my life saw through the lies, the manipulation, the little cages dressed up as favors. But the envelope had one more line at the bottom, scrawled in fading ink. Locker number 421. Key in your baby book. You'll know what to do. I stared at those words for a long time. My baby book. I hadn't thought about that dusty old scrapbook in years. I didn't even know if my parents still had it, until I remembered that I'd shoved it into one of my boxes when I left home. I'd been planning to donate it. Something told me not to. Back in Logan's basement, I dug through the last plastic bin I hadn't touched since arriving. Buried under old t-shirts and a broken laptop charger, there it was. Yellowed. Water-stained. On the first page, Aubrey Elise James. Born 1997. I flipped through photos of me with food smeared across my face, birthday party invitations from the early 2000s, and a lock of my hair taped to the back cover. Tucked between two pages was a tiny silver key. No tag. No label. Just as the letter said. Logan drove me to the storage facility while Ellie slept in the back seat. It was on the edge of town, tucked between a hardware store and an abandoned car wash. Rows and rows of steel roll-up doors lined the gravel lot. A place for forgotten furniture and fading memories. Locker number 421 was in the last row. The key turned easily. The door creaked as it rose, dust drifting out like a held breath finally exhaled. The unit wasn't packed. Just a few boxes. A trunk. And one item that made my knees go weak. A brown file cabinet with my name taped to the front in Sylvia's handwriting. Logan stayed near the door while I opened the drawers. The first was filled with photos. Some I'd seen before, me with Aunt Sylvia at the lake, at the fair, at her old apartment in Boston. But some were older. Sylvia in her 20s. Pregnant. A hospital tag with a name I didn't recognize, Marie Landon. What the hell, I whispered. There were letters. Dozens of them. Most from Sylvia. But a few from someone named Marie, always addressed to Ellie. The baby? No. These letters were decades old. And then it hit me. Sylvia had a daughter. One she'd given up. And she'd named her Eleanor. I found a sealed envelope with my name again. Inside, a typed letter. If you're reading this, I'm gone. And I need you to understand something. Ellie isn't just your niece. She's your blood. Her mother, Marie, was my daughter. I had her when I was young and gave her up. She found me years later, after she got pregnant with Ellie. She was scared. No family. No support. I wanted to help. I started the trust in your name so someone I trusted would care for her if anything happened. I didn't expect Marie to die during childbirth. And I didn't expect your parents to lie to you about it. I dropped the paper. The air in the storage unit felt too thick. Ellie wasn't Madeline's daughter. She was Marie's. Sylvia's granddaughter. My cousin. Logan knelt beside me. You okay? No, I said honestly. I picked up one of the photos again. A woman with long red hair, holding a newborn baby. Her eyes were kind. Her smile was tired but real. On the back, scribbled in pen. Marie plus Eleanor, June 2023. Madeline's due date had been July. But this said June. They hadn't just hidden paperwork. They'd hidden a person. The trunk in the corner held more files, mostly legal ones. Property deeds. Bank statements. But at the very bottom was a safety envelope. It held another document. A will. Marie's. Signed. Dated. Notarized. In the event of my death, I named Sylvia James and her designated guardian, Aubrey Elise James, as primary caregivers and sole custodians of my daughter, Eleanor June. I couldn't breathe. The pieces clicked into place too fast. Madeline had no baby. She had a plan. They all did. Take Marie's child. Raise her as their own. Cut me out completely. Use me when needed. Then toss me aside before I turned 27 and claimed the trust. Only they didn't count on one thing. Sylvia's preparation. I took photos of everything. The documents. The will. The letters. I even made Logan record a video of me opening the trunk and reading the letter aloud for proof. Then I packed everything into a box, locked the unit again, and told the front office I wanted to transfer ownership into my name. They said Sylvia had already listed me as the sole heir. Of course she did. Back at Logan's, Ellie was awake and fussy. I fed her with one hand and scrolled through my messages with the other. 2 missed calls from my dad. 1 from an unknown number. No voicemails. Then, a text from an old number I didn't recognize at first. Rachel C. They know where you are. You need to move. Now. Rachel had been Sylvia's friend. A quiet woman. She used to bring cookies when I was a kid. I hadn't seen her in years. I texted back. How do you know that? No reply. I looked at Logan. We have to go. We drove through the night. Ellie cried for the first half hour, then passed out cold. I didn't cry. I didn't even blink much. All I could think about was the look on my mother's face the day I left. That small, smug smile. Like she just solved a puzzle no one else could finish. But she didn't solve anything. She just buried the pieces. And now I had them all. We stopped at a small cottage 2 hours from the state border. Belonged to one of Logan's old co-workers who'd moved out west and left the place empty. By the time I got Ellie inside and fed, the sky was grey with dawn. I sat at the kitchen table with the box from the storage unit and stared at the photo of Marie again. I had no memory of her. And yet, something about her felt familiar. Like I'd known her in another life. Maybe it was the eyes. Maybe it was because we both got caught in the same trap. But I swore then and there, no one else was going to make decisions for this baby ever again. Not my parents. Not Madeline. Not some mystery man knocking on Logan's window. Me. The next morning, I emailed scanned copies of everything to an encrypted drive. Then I made a new call. To someone I hadn't spoken to in a long time. Travis Hale. We dated when I was 21. He was smart, stubborn, and went to law school straight out of undergrad. Last I heard, he was working at a small firm that handled estate disputes. I didn't expect him to answer. But he did. Aubrey. Hey, I said. I need a lawyer. Silence. Then, are you in trouble? No, I said. But they're about to be. Travis didn't ask many questions on the phone. Just told me to meet him at a diner outside Syracuse, about 3 hours from the cottage. He said it would be low-key, not suspicious. It didn't feel low-key. I hadn't seen him in 5 years. Not since we broke up after a screaming match in the rain outside a liquor store. But when I walked into that diner, baby carrier in hand and a file folder tucked under my coat, he looked up from his booth and stood like it hadn't been years, like I hadn't disappeared. His hair was shorter now. A little more serious. But the way he looked at me was the same. Aubrey, he said. You look alive. I set Ellie down gently and slid into the booth. She likes it when people tell her that. He looked at the baby. His eyebrows raised. Yours. Legally, I said. He blinked. I handed him the folder. Okay, he said, nodding slowly. Let's back up. I told him everything, start to finish. Losing my job. Moving home. The offer to be Madeline's live-in nanny. The key from my baby book. The storage locker. The truth about Marie. To his credit, Travis didn't interrupt once. He just listened, flipping through the documents in silence. Then he picked up the birth certificate and stared at it like it had personally insulted him. They signed you in as the mother. Madeline and my dad. And they never told me. He looked over the will from Marie. This is airtight, he muttered. If this is real, and I'll verify it, it means you were her chosen guardian. Not Madeline. Not your parents. She died giving birth, I said. And I think they buried everything with her. Travis leaned back in the booth and blew out a slow breath. This is the kind of thing lawyers only hear about in podcasts. I nodded. So, what do I do? He tapped the birth certificate. First, you protect this. And yourself. The next morning, he filed a motion in court for emergency guardianship recognition, citing Marie's will, the existing guardianship papers, and the trust clause from Sylvia. He also requested a temporary restraining order against my parents and Madeline, just in case they tried to force contact. That same afternoon, I got the call. Blocked number. I let it go to voicemail. Then curiosity got the best of me, and I listened. It was my mom. Aubrey, this is ridiculous. You're making everything worse. We're going to court now. You're going to be labeled unstable if you keep hiding. Just come home. Give Madeline back her daughter and stop acting like a child. She hung up before I could even delete it. I let Travis hear it. He smirked. She's already saying you're mentally unfit. That'll help our case more than hers. Later that day, the court notice was delivered to Travis's office. My family was suing me for emergency custody of Ellie, and trying to have me evaluated for psychological instability. They claimed I had taken the baby during a breakdown. That I'd isolated myself. That I was making delusional claims. Travis handed me the papers and said, they just opened the door. Now we walk through it. We prepped for court in the back of his office, a cramped space filled with dusty legal books and a beat-up couch that had definitely seen too many bad coffee spills. Ellie sat in her car seat, chewing on a teether, completely unaware her life was being argued over in legal filings. Travis walked me through what would happen. We present Marie's will. The birth certificate. The trust documents. Everything ties together. I nodded. They'll try to discredit you, he added. They'll paint you as unstable, angry, irresponsible. I've been all three, I admitted. Good, he said, surprising me. You're human. Don't try to be perfect. Just be honest. The day of the hearing, I wore a plain navy dress and flat shoes. No jewelry. No makeup. Just clean and steady. We walked into the courtroom together. The moment I stepped in, I saw them. My parents on the left bench. My mother's lips were pursed tight. My dad wouldn't even look at me. Madeline sat between them, hands folded like she was about to receive communion. I held Ellie a little closer. Madeline blinked fast when she saw the baby, like she was about to cry. But I wasn't buying the act. Not anymore. The judge was a woman in her 60s with silver glasses and a voice like stone. She didn't waste time. We're here for an emergency custody dispute. The petitioner, Aubrey James, has filed for legal confirmation of guardianship over the child in question, Eleanor June. The respondents, Howard James, Linda James, and Madeline Callahan, are filing for emergency custody and psychological evaluation of the petitioner. Travis stood. Your Honor, we have documentation proving Ms. James is the named guardian of this child per the will of Marie Landon, the child's biological mother and legal ward of the late Sylvia James. He submitted copies of the will, the birth certificate, the trust, and notarized letters from Aunt Sylvia's lawyer. The judge skimmed everything quickly, flipping pages with practiced speed. Ms. Callahan, she said, turning to my sister, do you contest this documentation? Madeline stood. I was told I could raise the baby. That it was safer that way. By whom? She looked at our parents. My mom stood up fast. Your Honor, Aubrey has no income. No job. She's bounced between living arrangements and has a history of unstable behavior. Travis stood again. Your Honor, Ms. James has no criminal record. No psychological diagnosis. And is currently residing in a secure, child-safe environment. The respondents, however, have concealed the identity of the child's biological mother and have attempted to misrepresent custodial rights. That got the judge's attention. Are you saying Ms. Callahan is not the mother? We have DNA proof if needed, Your Honor. The hearing lasted over an hour. My parents got loud. Madeline got quiet. I answered every question calmly. I told the judge everything, how I found the documents, how no one ever told me about Marie, how they'd planned to use me to raise Ellie until they could cut me out. The courtroom was dead silent when I said, they didn't want me to raise her. They wanted me to disappear after I made their lives easier. The judge folded her hands. She looked at Madeline. Ms. Callahan, are you the biological mother of this child? Madeline swallowed hard. No. Then you have no legal claim. She turned to me. Ms. James, until further notice, you are awarded full temporary custody of Eleanor June. The court finds probable evidence of custodial interference and manipulation. This case will proceed to full investigation. After the ruling, I walked out of the courtroom and didn't look back. Travis followed, quiet. Ellie was asleep again, the way she always seemed to be when everything around her fell apart. Travis turned to me outside the courthouse and said, they're going to push back. I know. We'll be ready. That night, I stayed at a safe apartment provided by a friend of Travis's firm. A 2-bedroom walk-up above a bakery. The whole place smelled like warm sugar and lemon. I sat on the couch, holding Ellie close, and whispered, you're not their secret anymore. She didn't understand, of course. But she smiled in her sleep. Just once. That was enough. I used to believe lies came out eventually. Like if you just waited long enough, people would get tired of keeping the mask on, and the truth would crack through like light under a door. But my family had built a whole life out of lies. And they were good at it. Practiced. Polished. They didn't slip. They signed. It wasn't just that they hid Marie's death. Or faked who Ellie belonged to. It was the way they turned me into a background character in my own story. Like I existed just to mop up after their messes. But now I had the mop, the bucket, and the receipts. And I was done cleaning for them. 2 days after the custody hearing, Travis called with a voice that sounded like he hadn't slept. You were right, he said. They covered more than we thought. He was at his office, digging through public records and old filings, searching for anything with my parents' names attached. At first it was boring, property transfers, tax documents, donations made in Madeline's name. Then he found it. I pulled banking and business records linked to your dad, Travis said. Turns out, he opened a guardianship trust 6 weeks before Ellie was born. For who? For Madeline. But the beneficiary was listed as infant female dependent of Marie Landon. I froze. You're sure? I asked. Yes. It's listed under a shell account, but the routing numbers match a bank in Albany. Your dad is the trustee. He had access to everything meant for Marie's daughter. And he gave it to Madeline. Travis exhaled. Looks that way. The more we looked, the more we found. Emails between my father and a judge who'd handled sealed guardianship cases. A property transfer where Madeline signed as mother and sole custodian, despite having no birth records. A payment from my mother to a private lawyer the week after Marie died, listed as a discretionary family retainer. Each one was a puzzle piece that didn't fit, until you saw the full picture. They hadn't just tried to erase me. They tried to rewrite the entire story. Travis filed a new motion with the court, requesting a freeze on all family assets tied to the guardianship. The judge granted it within 24 hours. Madeline called me the next day. Blocked number again. I almost didn't pick up. But I wanted to hear it. I needed to. Her voice was tight and trembling. You froze my account, she said. No, I said. The court did. You think this makes you better than me? No, I said. It just makes me less of a liar. She went quiet. Then, you were always jealous. Always looking for some way to play victim. That actually made me laugh. I didn't take your baby, Maddie, I said. You never had one. And I hung up. That afternoon, I met Travis at his office. He had something new. I've been following the paper trail, he said. But now I think it's time we follow the people trail. What does that mean? He pulled out a file. There's one name that keeps popping up in the old filings. A paralegal who helped process your Aunt Sylvia's original estate. He flipped the page. She's the one who notarized Marie's will. Her name's Kristen Wells. Where is she now? She still lives in Albany, he said. And I already called her. My stomach twisted. She's willing to meet, he said. She said she's been waiting for this call for a long time. Kristen lived in a small condo just outside the city. When she opened the door, she looked at me like she already knew me. You have her eyes, she said softly. I didn't have to ask who she meant. Marie. Kristen invited us in, poured tea into mismatched mugs, and sat at her kitchen table like she'd rehearsed this day in her mind 100 times. I met Marie through Sylvia, she said. They weren't close at first, but after Marie got pregnant, things changed. Sylvia wanted to make things right. She was going to help Marie raise the baby. Set up the guardianship. Fix what she'd broken by giving Marie up. I nodded slowly. But your parents, they didn't like that, Kristen said. They thought Sylvia was making a mistake. They said she was getting too emotional. Too old to think clearly. Was she? I asked. Kristen shook her head. Sylvia was sharper than all of them. And she didn't trust your family. That's why she put everything in writing. Kristen slid an envelope across the table. I kept this, she said. In case someone ever came looking. Inside was a handwritten letter from Sylvia to the probate judge. If anything happens to me before the trust is transferred, I want it clear that Aubrey Elise James is the intended beneficiary, and the child, Eleanor June, is her legal dependent, not Madeline Callahan or any member of the James household. I looked at Travis. He nodded. This, he said, is a nail in the coffin. But it wasn't over. The next day, Travis's office got a letter from a law firm representing my parents. They were requesting a family mediation meeting, a last-ditch effort before the case went to full trial. Travis asked if I wanted to skip it. I almost did. But I said yes. Because I wanted to see them sit in front of me and admit what they did. The meeting was held in a neutral office with a mediator sitting between us. My parents on one side. Me and Travis on the other. Ellie wasn't with us. She stayed at the cottage with Logan. My mother wore pearls. My father wore the same suit he used to wear to church. Neither of them looked at me. The mediator started calmly. We're here to see if any resolution can be reached outside of court. Ms. James, you have the floor. I kept it simple. I want no contact, I said. I want full custody of Eleanor, and I want the trust released under the conditions Sylvia set. My mom scoffed. Do you hear yourself? She snapped. You want to raise someone else's child and take money you didn't even own. I leaned forward. No, I said. I want to raise my cousin, the one you tried to turn into your accessory, and use the money Sylvia left for that exact reason. To protect her. My dad finally spoke. We were trying to fix a mistake. You made one, I said. But it wasn't Marie. It was me. You raised a daughter you couldn't control, so you tried to use me instead. It didn't work. The mediator looked between us. Do the respondents wish to continue with legal action? My mom hesitated. We need time to consider. I smiled. Take all the time you want. Just know that if this goes to court, every document, every letter, every email goes public. Travis handed them a folder. Inside was a copy of Marie's will, Kristen's letter, and an outline of Sylvia's final trust terms. My mother's hands trembled as she read it. My dad didn't open it at all. We left without shaking hands. In the parking lot, Travis looked at me and said, You know what happens next, right? I do, I said. They'll back off. They'll spin a story to their friends, play the victims, say you stole from them. Let them, I said. I'm not running anymore. That night, I sat on the porch of the cottage while Ellie slept inside. I held the birth certificate in one hand and Sylvia's letter in the other. They weren't just pieces of paper. They were proof. That I mattered. That Marie mattered. That Ellie wasn't some family chess piece. She was someone's daughter. Someone's legacy. And she was staying right where she belonged. With me. Courtrooms always smelled like dust and nerves. That's what I remember thinking as I walked through the double doors, holding a folder filled with the truth and wearing a dress that didn't quite feel like me. Not because it was too formal, but because it was clean, ironed, untouched. Unlike everything I was about to say. The final hearing had arrived. Not just about custody. Not just about the trust. This was about the whole picture. And I wasn't the only one watching anymore. Travis walked beside me, his usual calm locked in place. He didn't say much. He knew I needed the quiet. The space. I hadn't slept the night before. I'd stared at the ceiling most of the night, listening to Ellie's breathing in the crib beside me, wondering what Sylvia would have said if she'd lived to see this day. Probably something sharp and simple. Don't flinch. So I didn't. We entered the courtroom at 9:04 a.m. sharp. My parents were already seated. Madeline too. They all wore black. Like they were attending a funeral. Maybe, in their minds, they were. The judge was the same woman from the emergency hearing, Judge Morales. Silver hair pulled into a low bun, reading glasses perched halfway down her nose. She didn't bother with pleasantries. "Let's begin," she said. Travis stood. "Your Honor, we're here to finalize the custody case for Eleanor June, and to address the matters of trust interference, guardianship fraud, and the proposed financial manipulation of the minor's legal assets." She nodded. "Proceed." The hearing lasted hours. Travis presented every piece of evidence. Marie's will. The birth certificate. The notarized letter from Kristen Wells. The trust files from Aunt Sylvia. The bank records showing my father's misdirection of Ellie's funds. He didn't get dramatic. He didn't raise his voice. He let the paper trail do the talking. My parents' lawyer tried to object. He claimed the birth certificate had been incorrectly filed. That my parents acted in good faith to protect the child. That's when Travis dropped the final envelope. Surveillance footage from the storage facility. Showing me accessing locker number 421, registered under Sylvia's name, with documentation and video proving the legitimacy of the evidence. It shut them down cold. Then it was my turn to speak. The judge asked if I wanted to make a personal statement. I stood. My hands shook, but my voice didn't. "I'm not perfect," I said. "I've made mistakes. I lost my job. I've felt lost more times than I can count. But what I'm not is unstable. Or unfit. Or delusional." I turned to face them, my family. I loved Marie. I didn't know her long, but I knew enough. Enough to know she didn't want her daughter to be used as a cover story or a tool for someone else's image. She trusted me. Sylvia trusted me. I held up the photo of Marie and Ellie, June 2023. This isn't about money. It's about truth. And I'm done letting other people decide what that looks like. When I sat down, the judge said nothing for a long time. Then she looked at my parents. "Do the respondents have anything to say?" My mother stood first. She didn't look at me. "We were trying to do what we thought was right," she said. "Right for who?" the judge asked. My mother didn't answer. My father stood next. "She's not ready to raise a child," he said flatly. "Look at her life. She's barely keeping herself afloat." I looked up at him. "I kept her fed. I kept her warm. I kept her safe. That's more than any of you did." He flinched. Not a lot. Just a blink. But it was the first time I'd seen him shaken. The judge didn't raise her voice. Didn't slam her gavel. She simply said, "This court grants full and permanent custody of Eleanor June to Aubrey Elise James. All financial and legal authority related to the child's trust and care are transferred to her immediately." She looked directly at me. "Ms. James, you have proven yourself to be not only capable, but committed. May you continue to do what others failed to." Then she stood and left the courtroom. Just like that. It was over. I didn't cry. Not at first. I felt still. Not peaceful. Just still. Like someone had hit pause on a storm. Outside the courthouse, the wind picked up. Leaves scattered across the pavement. Travis handed me the final paperwork with a small, crooked smile. "You did it," he said. I looked at the gold seal on the page, then back at the building behind us. "They're never going to forgive me," I said. "Maybe not," he replied. "But you didn't need their forgiveness. Just the truth." Madeline caught up to me before I got in the car. She didn't yell. She didn't cry. She just looked tired. Smaller. "This isn't what I wanted," she said. "You could have fooled me," I replied. She shook her head. "I didn't know they were going to do all that. I just thought that you deserved the picture-perfect family." I finished. "You thought you could borrow a baby and make it yours, because it was easier than doing it the right way." She looked down. I'm sorry. I didn't say anything. Because I didn't know if I believed her. Or if it even mattered now. That night, I went back to the cottage. Ellie was asleep in Logan's arms, drooling slightly on his hoodie. He looked up when I walked in. So. We won, I said. He smiled. I figured. You have that I didn't scream in court glow. I laughed. It felt strange. To laugh. Like my body had forgotten how. I took Ellie from him and sat on the couch, holding her close. She squirmed once, then settled against me, her tiny hand gripping the fabric of my shirt. You're safe now, I whispered. They can't take anything else from us. But deep down, I knew it wasn't over. Because people like my parents didn't just disappear. They regrouped. And the more Travis uncovered, the more we realized just how deep some of their deals went. Trusts. Investments. Shell accounts linked to my name without permission. There was more to dig. And if I wanted to protect Ellie, for real, I had to finish what Sylvia started. The next morning, Travis slid a manila folder across the table. I wasn't going to show you this yet, he said. But I think you're ready. Inside were photos. Names. Account logs. At the top, Rachel Callahan, our cousin. A name I hadn't heard in years. Underneath, more birth certificates. More cover-ups. More lies. It wasn't just about me. My family had been rewriting stories for years. And now I had to decide, do I protect the past? Or do I burn it down for good? They say the truth sets you free. But they never talk about what it does to the people who built their lives on lies. It doesn't just knock on their door. It tears the whole house down. I thought the custody hearing would be the final chapter. A clean break. Me and Ellie in our little rental, Travis checking in, Logan stopping by with groceries, life slowly becoming ordinary again. But then I opened that folder. And realized my family hadn't just betrayed me. They had rewritten generations. Rachel Callahan. I hadn't seen her in over a decade. She was my uncle's daughter, technically my cousin, but we'd barely talked growing up. She'd been the quiet one, always standing in corners at reunions, always disappearing when things got loud. I had forgotten she existed. Until Travis found her name in the trust records. Apparently, Rachel had been listed as the alternate beneficiary in Sylvia's first draft. Before Marie. Before me. The trust was always meant to stay in the family, but Sylvia had changed her mind. Rachel was cut out. And, according to the file, she hadn't taken it well. There were emails. One of them, dated the week after Marie's death, was from Rachel to my father. You told me she'd never see that money. That I'd finally get something after all these years. Don't make me regret trusting you. And another. If you want me to keep my mouth shut, I need my share. You promised. I stared at those messages for a long time. Travis was pacing. She knew, he said. She knew what they were doing. Maybe even helped. To Marie. Maybe. The thought made my stomach twist. A few days later, I found something else. Tucked inside a folder Sylvia had kept in the storage unit was a sealed envelope. On the front, it said, to be mailed only if the trust is challenged. Inside, a single-page letter. And a USB drive. The letter was addressed to me. If you're reading this, it means the wolves came anyway. I didn't plan on them involving Rachel, but I suppose I should have. She's always wanted a seat at the table, no matter who had to starve for it. Use the drive if they push. It won't win you friends. But it'll win you distance. And that's what you need most. I plugged the USB into Logan's laptop. It contained exactly one file, a 10-minute video recording of a conversation between my dad, Rachel, and Madeline, recorded in Sylvia's house a few weeks before she died. In it, they talked about the trust. About me. About Marie. And how to make sure I never got any of it. I forwarded the file to Travis. He called me 5 minutes later. That's it, he said. This isn't just a family fight anymore. This is premeditated fraud. Possibly conspiracy. What do we do? He was quiet for a long moment. Then, we leak it. We didn't go to the press. Not yet. We sent it directly to Rachel's employer. To the legal board overseeing the judge who signed off on Madeline's fake custody. To the financial regulators watching trust fund transfers. One by one, the calls started coming in. People wanted interviews. Statements. Apologies. I gave none of them. I just waited. 1 week later, Rachel lost her job. The judge recused himself. Madeline vanished from social media. Deleted everything. Moved back in with my parents. And my mother, oh, my mother, left a voicemail I'll never forget. You should be ashamed. You've destroyed this family. You humiliated us. You think this makes you powerful? You'll never belong anywhere now. No one will take you seriously again. She hung up without letting me speak. I didn't call back. I just sat on the porch, watching Ellie try to grab her own feet, giggling like the world was brand new. And I smiled. Because I didn't need to belong to their version of a family. I had made my own. A month later, I packed up the cottage. It had served its purpose: shelter, quiet, space to think. But it was time to start over for real. Logan helped me move into a new place near the coast. 2 bedrooms. A fenced yard. A small swing set in the back. Travis got me in touch with a trust advisor who helped set up a fund for Ellie. College. Healthcare. Even a travel budget for when she got older. I took a freelance job writing case summaries for a law firm out of state. Remote. Flexible. Exactly what I needed. And every night, after I put Ellie to bed, I wrote. Not for work. Not for evidence. For me. 3 months after the court ruling, I went back to the city for one thing. The storage unit. I didn't need the papers anymore. The trust was settled. The account secured. But there was one box Sylvia had left behind, unopened. It was labeled simply, "For later." Inside were photos. Of Marie. Of Sylvia and Marie together. Of Ellie as a newborn. And at the very bottom, a letter written in Sylvia's handwriting. You weren't supposed to carry this alone. But I knew if it came down to it, you'd do it anyway. Because you're strong. Because you're stubborn. Because you're mine. They'll say you ran. That you stole. That you destroyed what was left. Let them. You didn't steal anything. You protected it. Sometimes love doesn't look like hugs and birthday cards. Sometimes it looks like locking a safe before someone else burns it all down. I cried. Not a breakdown. Not like before. Just slow, soft tears. The kind that come when something finally settles into place. I had been holding my breath for years. Now I could finally let it out. On Ellie's first birthday, we had a picnic on the beach. Just me, Logan, Travis, and a few people who had shown up when I needed them most. We didn't do a huge party. Just cake. Sand. Sunlight. At one point, Logan leaned over and asked, "So what now?" I watched Ellie crawl toward the edge of a blanket, covered in frosting and laughter. I smiled. We live, I said. We breathe. We grow. And them? He asked. I shook my head. They had their chance. I didn't say their names again. Not that day. Maybe not ever. Before we left the beach, I buried a box under a smooth stone. Inside was a copy of the letter Sylvia had written. A photo of Marie holding Ellie. And a flash drive labeled simply, Truth. It was the surprise I left behind. Not for them. But for whoever came next. Whoever might grow up one day wondering what really happened, and why a quiet girl with no plan disappeared with a baby, and came back with a purpose. Because I wasn't the one who ran. They were the ones who tried to rewrite me. And I didn't just survive the story.